Ranting, reflecting, reasoning, reckoning.
The Huddle with paperplusoffice.co.nz. Buy all your office supplies and stationery online now.
On the Huddle this evening, Josie Pagani is with me. Hello, Josie.
Hi, Larry.
And the editor of Truth, and from whaleoil.co.nz, Cam Slater. Hello, Cameron.
Hey, Larry.
Now, Josie, Aaron Gilmore, I'll give you first crack at this. Aaron Gilmore is toast politically, but he will likely hang around Parliament like a bad smell. What do you see in this?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason we're still talking about this now, and picking over the bones of his political carcass, is that he hasn't fronted up to the media. If he'd fronted and said a fulsome sorry, a fulsome apology, then it would stop and we wouldn't be talking about him anymore. But he hasn't. You know, his friends and even his partner's apologising on his behalf because he's bullying his tenants in a house. So the fact that he hasn't said sorry is the problem. You know, I actually feel sorry for the hotel, Larry. You know, first the backbench MP comes along, threatens to get one of their waiters fired, and then next thing the Prime Minister's literally begging them to lay a complaint so he's got an excuse to fire him. I mean, they must be having crisis meetings at the Heritage Hotel every day.
Do you think that's the case, Cam? The Prime Minister's invited them to make a complaint. They're not going to. But, I mean, even he can't really fire him, can he?
This is the stupidity of MMP and the law and the way it's written. And to my mind, if you're a list MP, you're a creature of the party, and they should be able to fire you, but they simply can't. So they're going to have to put up with Aaron Gilmore and the drip-fed death by 1,000 cuts of all the other shenanigans that have gone on out there in his incredibly stupid way that he conducts himself.
You know, one of the things, Larry, is that, and I would say this is not just national, but other political parties, including Labor, that often they protect the sitting list MPs before an election.
He won't get any protection at all.
No, but he did in 2011, didn't he?
No, he didn't, because he was at 56 or something like that.
Yes, so he didn't make
protection,
it. But you still, I mean, you know, it's questionable whether he should have. He's not at the bottom of the national list. It goes even lower than that. He was at the bottom of the caucus list. So I think there's a lesson there for all parties that your list MPs. It doesn't matter if you're a sitting list MP. It's got to be competitive about who's the best candidate, who's the best person to get into Parliament.
But I can tell you, Aaron Gilmore doesn't have very many friends left, if any, and he burned them off on the weekend with his antics and his continued insistence that he, doesn't really think he's done anything wrong. Look, it is a massive media beat-up because the bottom line is the Prime Minister can't sack him. No one can fire him. So it is a bit of a beat-up. They're trying to fake him out into quitting. But he broke my own personal no dickheads rule, and he's not going to get any support from me.
I wonder, what is the job of the lowest-ranked list MP in Parliament? What do they actually do? They turn up to vote. What else do they do?
well, you should find out, Josie, because you're likely to be the lowest-ranked list MP for Labour.
I'm too low. I'm too low to even be in a caucus drop down dead. But,
I think you get to make the tea for the Prime Minister's lackey.
Right. But he's in Christchurch, for God's sake. He could actually go out there and behave like an electorate MP and get busy and do something to help the people down there.
That's what most of the Labour ones do in Auckland, in the sea of blue that's north of the Harbour Bridge. They go and set up a little office and pretend that they're a
and that's
MP.
good. I think that's good. I mean, at least they're going out there and doing something and behaving like members of Parliament.
We'll come back in a moment. Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater on the Huddle. It's now 17-6.
Larry Williams Drive with the new ANZ, the bank that gives you more.
Back on the Huddle, Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater. Issue number 2, Cameron, judging the judges.
What a good idea.
The Sensible Sentencing website has been launched. It's live today. They say it will encourage public awareness and reflection on judicial decisions. The legal fraternity, they don't like this. You say, what a good idea. I tend to agree with you. I mean, the problem is, you see, it highlights the appalling sentences, and there's been plenty of them.
Well, the judges are on the public payroll. The preciousness that has come out of various legislative and judicial mouthpieces today is just appalling. The way we've got our photos on there. It's all just soft. But it's not. But they've taken the negative of the judges. If you have a look at some of the cases they've got there, they're actually praising some of the judges. Like case 3, for example. You can't bluff Judge Forrest Miller. He sentenced serial offender Nico Waipuka to one of the longest ever sentences for manslaughter. They're actually comparing judges and the cases that they've got and how they handle them, and I think that's good. It's transparent, And you know what? They can whinge all they like, but it isn't going to be stopped, and neither will public outcry over weak, ninny judges that are out there giving dud sentences.
Josie, it's informative. It includes the judge's sentencing notes, so the public actually gets a better picture of what the judge took into consideration in sentencing.
Yeah, and what would have been ideal, Larry, is if the judicial profession itself had set up some kind of resource like this, whether it be a Facebook or transcripts of trials or videos of trials or whatever, their own website, where they're being open to scrutiny, open to criticism, because they are, you're right, Cam, they are too defensive about this. But my problem with it, Larry, is that sensible sentencing, look, they've got a barrow to push, and good on them. I don't agree with a lot of what they say, but I think they've got a legitimate right to be there and to argue that. But they are advocating for particular policies,
Good.
and so yeah, but you know, they're not the right people to be running something that should be an independent scrutiny. Well, no, they're going to be praising judges whose decisions they like, rather than putting all the evidence out there and letting people make their own decisions.
There's judges out there that have got blood on their hands. They've let people out of jail who should never have been let out of jail for some sooky, weaselly reasons, and they've got blood on their hands.
But
there is no way to hold judges to account
if you're
anywhere in the system, and this
that's not quite true, because there's appeal processes.
Oh yes, go hire a QC, spend millions of dollars going back to court.
I'm not saying you shouldn't have that stuff out there. You absolutely should. But if you're going to start naming judges, and I do think there's a danger that this becomes naming and shaming. They're just enacting the law. They're following the law. So if you don't like what judges are doing, you've got to talk about the law.
They're not following the law. They've got a guideline where the maximum for a particular crime is, say, 14 years. They give them a slap on the wrist with a wet bus ticket, some home detention, at worst 2 years in jail. That's not following the law. The law says that we want these rat bags locked up. We don't want them on the streets. And these judges give them hugs and a little pat on the backside on the way out.
If you start naming and shaming individual judges, then you're going to lose judicial independence.
Well, this information
is judicial independence, and then you've got...
No, you're not. No. Josie, this is public...
It's a problem.
All right. This is publicly available. Josie, this is publicly available in information anyway. Let's go on to the...
What they're doing is they're naming and shaming, Larry. This is important.
Well, no, they're naming them because you can only name the judge. You can only...
Like they're
see what the sentence is.
Something could happen. The consequences for them, if they do something that the government doesn't like or the mob doesn't like, then you lose the rule of law.
Put people in jail. End of. No problem.
Put everybody in jail who ends up in court. Come on, Cam.
Let's move on. I want to get an opinion before we leave tonight. Family first. You first, Cameron, briefly. Family first charity status looks like it has gone. The Charities Commission intends to deregister them because they deem them to be a political grouping. What do you see?
No, I think they are. They're pretty shameless about threatening MPs who don't vote the way they want them to vote in particular legislation. They threaten, they sent round letters in the recent same-sex marriage bill to MPs saying that we've done a poll, and on the basis of this poll, if we really have a good case at the next election, we're going to tip you out because you don't vote the way that we want.
Josie?
And that's right, Cam. They're an advocacy group, and I agree with you, they're a lobbying group, and so is sensible sentencing. That's my point. Neither of them, both of them came under the registered charity status, and I'm surprised that either of them had that status for exactly the reasons we were just talking about.
It's
absolutely.
Same as Greenpeace.
All right.
So they are lobbying for political. They've got a political point of view. They've got every right to have it, but they shouldn't have a tax subsidy for going out and do that, because otherwise why wouldn't you give political parties a subsidy?
Thank you, Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater on the Huddle. Murray Deaker to follow. It's coming up 9 to 6.